Hey there, YouTube. Wanted to do a Memorial Day special to talk about those that made the ultimate sacrifice. Some of them for absolutely moral and just reasons. You know, I think of the American Revolution. Think about World War II, right? And I'm thinking about Ukraine right now, right? That's a fight worth fighting. But I think Memorial Day should also be spent remembering the sacrifices that were made for less moral reasons. And World War I is a great example. Absolutely pointless war. I think all too often war is fought for completely pointless reasons. Military solutions used instead of diplomacy for expediency, fill in the blank. I mean, you got America's military industrial complex over here raking in the dough. You know, we're getting warned about it. You know, Eisenhower himself warning us about it, coining the term. We've got the War Department calling itself the Defense Department, right? So, list goes on. And what I wanted to do for this Memorial Day special was just listen to the soldier. You know, listen to the soldier who was there, and you know, and remind us that if we're going to use this powerful tool that humanity has called war, we better be using it for the right reasons. Because moral war, immoral war, just war, unjust war, it does not matter. Men are destroyed, shredded, physically, mentally, irrevocably. And it's quite sad. Quite sad. So if we're gonna enter into a war, we're gonna enter into combat, there better be a good goddamn reason for it. And majority of the time, there isn't. I could list them off, you know, rattle them off. Hundreds and hundreds of conflicts going all the way back. You know, we're better than this, and I think that's what the soldier has to tell us, is that, you know, we can be better. Here we go. We're going to start with World War I. Very lucky to get this interview. Lovely Chet Baker over here, by the way. Almost blue. Thank you, Chet. Thank you, Chet. Very tortured artist there. But yeah, very lucky to get this interview. World War I soldier. You know, he's a very old man, so please have some patience with what he's saying. I'll get the closed captions going if you have a hard time seeing it, or hearing it. But here we go. Starting off with the World War I soldier.
I was 18 and a half. I was called up. I saw two battlefields, one at Passchendaele and one at Pilkem. I shall never forget it as long as I live.
I bet.
The officer was going down the trench. Anybody who didn't go in was shot on sight for cowardice. We went over and we crawled. If you stood up, you were dead. And I came across a Cornishman. He was ripped from his shoulder to his stomach with shrapnel. His inside was out on the ground in a pool of blood. He said, "Shoot me."
Wow.
Before we could draw a revolver to shoot him, he was beyond all human aid. He died.
Wow.
In 30 seconds he died, and he just said one word, "Mother." And that haunted me all my life.
Jesus Christ. You know, they're so young, you know, and I'm raising a son now, and I realize how young I was at 18, 19, and how still attached to my mother, you know. And of course, we're all attached to our mothers for life, but especially, you know, at that age, you know, a lot of these guys are leaving the home for the first time. It's like I said, You know, if we're going to be entering into a war, there better be a good goddamn reason for it. And that's why I wanted to start off with World War One, because when I think about pointless wars, this is number one on my list. Very interesting, Davey. Thank you so much for your information, on this Kosovo situation. It very much helps me, understand the situation quickly, get up to speed very quickly. So thank you for all your time and effort to help me out with that. But yeah, back to this here, saying mother. I mean, I think that's something we've heard quite a bit from soldiers on the battlefield. This incredibly sad reality.
Out of the trench, there was about 4 or 5 Germans got out, and they didn't get out to run, they got out to fight. And one of them was coming towards us with a fixed bayonet. He couldn't have had any ammunition, or else he'd have shot us. As I say, I was a crack shot. I shot him in the shoulder. I couldn't kill him. That Cornishman's mother was in my brain. I thought, I can't kill him. He's somebody's son.
Wow.
He's probably got brothers and sisters. Maybe he's got a family to bring up. I can't kill him. I shall never forget it. We did 2 or 3 turns in the trenches, and we were going back on one of those turns when somebody pulled the lanyard of a gun, fired a whiz-bang, landed right in amongst us. It killed 3, 4, and 5. It wounded me.
What did he? So the guy accidentally fired like a grenade launcher or something called a whiz bang when we were
back on one of those turns when somebody pulled the lanyard of a gun.
Yeah, so pulled the lanyard of a gun, the strap.
Fired a whiz bang.
What the hell is a whiz bang? World War One whiz bang. Yeah, okay, encyclopedia. No, okay, well. Whiz bang, Canada, the First World War. The hell is this? Whiz bangs and wind ups? Just what exactly was a whiz bang? The term was widely used by Allied, mostly often British and Commonwealth servicemen to describe any form of German field artillery shells. The whiz bang was originally attributed to the noise made by the shells. He got hit by artillery. So what? He pulled the lanyard of a gun, fired a shot that alerted the artillery to their location. Is that what he's saying?
Fired a whiz bang, landed right in amongst us.
Yeah.
It killed 3, 4, and 5. It wounded me.
Wow.
And piece of shrapnel, it must have hit something in the ground or something hard. It was 2 inches long, half an inch wide, jagged edge, hit me in the groin. It was only a scratch, really. You could see it. And I must have passed out. I don't know how long I lay there. The next thing I knew, I was in a dressing station. And the doctor came the next evening. I took the bandage off. He said, would you like me to take that shrapnel out? No, he said, before you say yes, there's no anesthetic in the camp. So I thought for a minute. So, well, I don't know. The pain was intense. Says, yes, go on, getting out. How long will you be? He said, 2 minutes. I could have bloody killed him in those 2 minutes. But anyway, he got it out.
Let me tell you, man, I had a kind of similar situation recently with my kidney stones. They, let's just say they left something up in there and I needed a doctor to help get it out. And that son's a bitchin' doctor that pulled that fucking thing out. He ripped it out like a ripcord. I could have killed him. But then, like, 5 seconds in, I could have killed him. 10 seconds later, I could have kissed him. I guess it was so painful.
out. And he said, do you want this as a souvenir?
Ah!
I said, I've had the bloody stuff long enough as it is. The next thing I knew, they called my number, my name. I was put in a Red Cross van down to Rouen and back to England. That was it.
Hell yeah, boy. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, dude. Right? And that's what makes all this a shame. You got this guy, top man, absolute top man, put through a meat grinder, barely survived, injured. Why? What? Why? Right? That's what makes it so tragic. Great guy, absolute hero, right? Could have done some real, good things for society. But no, he had to fight some stupid ass war. Over what? Moving on to our next pointless war that shouldn't have happened. A situation that clearly needed a diplomatic situation, not a military one. The legendary Vietnam War, or as the Vietnamese call it, the United States War. This is an American Marine in the field being interviewed. So this is a little, I think this is an attempt to show the Vietnam War in a better light, maybe. But I thought it was interesting to have an interview with a soldier who's like literally, in Vietnam, right? One of the most interesting interviews I ever watched for a soldier talking about his experience hand-to-hand combat with a German soldier who eventually bayoneted him. Jesus Christ. We'll go ahead and we'll have to get that in there. Maybe this Saturday. Actually, we could do an addendum. I have just enough time to get these videos through, so let's go ahead and get in this interview.
Here at Contian, near the demilitarized zone, this is Lance Corporal Buddy Mann from Duval's Bluff. Buddy, how long have you been here?
About 36 days altogether.
Have you seen a lot of action
days.
during those 36 days?
Just a little bit, not too awful much. Little incoming here and there.
How does it feel to be down in your bunker with all of that artillery coming in?
A little bit shaky. Me, I'm a natural-born chicken.
We understand back home that this was one of the roughest places in the war. Would you agree with that?
I certainly would. It is. It's pretty bad up here.
Could you tell us about some of your experiences since you've been here?
A lot of artillery incoming rounds and mortars. There's not much you can say about it.
Have you had some pretty close calls?
Not too close, but pretty close. I'm still here.
What do you do when you hear those rounds coming in?
You get out just about as fast as you can. Then after they slack up a little bit, you find your hole and keep your head down.
How long have you been here?
36 days.
In Vietnam?
4 months. 4 months and 2 days.
How much longer you got?
Well, I hope just 8 more months, but maybe 9 to do in Vietnam.
How does this country compare with Duval's Bluff?
No, none whatsoever. I'd like to be back there.
How much longer are you going to be here at Contian?
We're supposed to leave in the morning. I hope so.
Going to go on a little R&R?
Okay.
Oh, I'd like that. I'd like to go to Hawaii and meet my wife.
How long have you been married?
About a year and 6 months.
Jesus
When was the
Christ.
last time you saw your wife?
In June,
She's living back in Duval's Bluff now?
with her mother.
Are you going to get home for Christmas this year?
No way.
Will this be your first Christmas away from home?
Right, first one away from home. I've got a little girl, 3 months old. I've never seen before.
What's her name?
Janet Ellen.
Do you get many letters from your wife telling
Man, fuck LBJ. Fuck LBJ.
her telling you about your little girl?
Every other day, or sometimes every day. We can't get mail up here every day on account of the weather. Most every day we have a mail call, I get a letter.
You'll be glad to get out of here, huh?
Oh, certainly will.
Wow. Wow. We're going to go ahead and make time. It's only 5 minutes. I think we're going to go ahead and make time for this. Going right back to World War One here. German World War One veteran describes killing a French soldier in a bayonet charge. We're not being voyeuristic here. What we are doing is understanding the reality of war. And when we get a George Bush or a Barack Obama, right, and we get these mediocre people telling us, quick in and out, quick little Desert Storm, and then we're out of here. We need to be very, very cautious of it, right? Unfortunately, I do think the average democracy is kind of precious. The American guy, yeah. I mean, I hope he survived. I hope he got his ass out of there. Anyway, let's just jump into it here. I lost my train of thought.
One day we got orders to storm a French position. We got in, and my comrades fell right and left of me. But then I was confronted by a French corporal, he with his bayonet at the ready, and I with my bayonet at the ready. For a moment, I felt the fear of death.
Wow.
And in a fraction of a second, I realized that he was after my life exactly as I was after his.
Jesus.
I was quicker than he was. I tossed his rifle away and I ran my bayonet through his chest. He fell, put his hand on the place where I had hit him, and then I thrust again. Blood came out of his mouth and he died. I felt physically ill. I nearly vomited. My knees were shaking, and I was, quite frankly, ashamed of myself. My comrades, I was a corporal there then, were absolutely undisturbed by what had happened. One of them boasted that he had killed a Paulie with the butt of his rifle. Another one had strangled a captain, a French captain. A third one had hit somebody over the head with his spade. And they were ordinary men like me. One of them was a tram conductor, another one a commercial traveler. Two were students, the rest were farm workers.
We all have it in us.
Ordinary people who never would have thought to do any harm to anyone. How did it come about that they were so cruel?
Nationalism. Nationalism.
I remembered then that we were told that the good soldier kills without thinking of his adversary as a human being.
And this is why I don't judge soldiers who participate in dehumanization of their enemies. When I see videos of Ukrainians, making jokes about dead Russians and things like that, and vice versa, I can't, watch Generation Kill, all about the Iraq-Afghanistan war, one of whichever one. I think it was Iraq war, maybe. But they're calling the Iraqis kind of a racial slur, kind of starts with H. I better not say it. Jeff will get mad at me. But you can't judge a soldier for dehumanizing their enemy because it's life or death out there. You can judge the leadership that supports that, right? That creates these situations and forces everyone in this position. But in the moment, in combat, you have to dehumanize your enemy to survive. You show mercy, you're rewarded with death on the battlefield. There's no room for mercy on the battlefield. That's how it works.
The very moment he sees in him a fellow man, he is not a good soldier anymore.
With that said, you see mercy on the battlefield all the time because no matter how hard a state tries, no matter how hard a country or a government tries, they can't fully erase the things that make us human. So you'd see mercy on the battlefield all the time, but truly, if you're there to survive, exhibiting mercy can very often get you killed.
But I had in front of me the dead man, the dead French soldier, and how would I liked him to have raised his hand? I would have shaken his hand, and we would have been the best of friends, because he was nothing like me but a poor boy who had to fight, who had to go in with the most cruel weapons against a man who had nothing against him personally, who only wore the uniform of another nation,
Sounds
who spoke
absurd.
another language, but a man who had father and mother.
Yeah, sounds
and a
pretty
family,
absurd.
perhaps. And so I felt. I woke up at night sometimes drenched in sweat because I saw the eyes of my fallen adversary, of the enemy, and I tried to convince myself
Wow.
what would have happened to me if I wouldn't have been quicker than he, what would have happened to me if I wouldn't have thrust my bayonet first into his belly. What was it that we soldiers stabbed each other, strangled each other, went for each other like mad dogs? What was it that we, who had nothing against them personally, fought with them to the very end and death?
Yeah. I
We
ask the
were
same
civilized
question.
people after all.
I ask the same question when I see these Russians in these trenches. Like, what are you dying for? Why?
But I felt that the culture we boasted so much about is only a very thin lacquer
Wow.
which chips off the very moment we come in contact with cruel things like real war.
Holy cow.
To fire
Like
at
poetry.
each other from a distance, to drop bombs is something impersonal. But to see each other's white in the eyes and then to run with a bayonet against a man, that was against my conception and against my inner feeling.
Wow.
Anything else?
Yeah, that was beautiful cut. Wow. This you so rarely get such a lucid, descriptive, eloquent description of what it's like to be there. I mean, he remembers every millisecond. And he's such an intelligent man, so aware of, of the situation. Wow. My God. I truly believe every school age child should be exposed to some of these interviews. Instead of the opposite, right? Instead of just tanks are cool and planes are cool and guns are cool and I don't know though. Would a child really even understand what he's saying here? Maybe not children, maybe teenagers, right? That are like, getting close to military age, right? 16, 17, 18. Maybe that would be more appropriate to show them something like this. But wow, absolutely amazing. Thank you, Davey. Well, only you need people willing to fight. Only if you believe you're going to, live in a world of constant violence. If you are totally hopeless and nihilistic towards, a better world and believe that the only way we're going to have any kind of peace is at the end of a gun, then yeah, you might want to train all your children to embrace violence. Sure. So let's perpetuate that. Let's not fix that. Let's continue on. Anyway, I don't have time to argue with dickheads right now. This is the Memorial Day special, so come back on Saturday to argue your nonsense. Oh yeah, there's no fixing it. Welcome to abandoned nihilism, where this kind of shit is not allowed. You are timed out, sir. Give up, be hopeless. Just embrace war. Yeah, we've heard it, man, and this is the end result. This is the exact end result. Just winning and losing. Yeah, the ends justify the means. That's the exact reasoning that creates toxic nationality. That's the exact reasoning that gets people who don't have a problem against each other to put on a uniform and kill each other. That's exactly it. I mean, thank you for showing that. Thank you for coming in and making an ass of yourself, but also showing the ridiculous reasoning that is behind some of the most brutal wars we've ever witnessed. Jumping back over to Vietnam, I thought this was a very interesting and candid interview with Vietnam veterans who are debating the war in 1968. And, I think it's also important to show some of the soldiers that still agree with war, that are not, that are like, yeah, I went there, I kicked some ass, and I'm proud of it, right? There are those soldiers as well, and I do think their voices are important.
Hey, Jack, you were there. You got wounded 3 times, twice, or whatever it was.
Last time I got hit in the head. We had 57 killed and 140 wounded, and like my whole platoon was completely wiped out except for about 3 or 4 guys, And it's like, it's really strange. I went down to Indiana for my buddy's funeral, because he was a real good friend of mine, and it's really to see it, what the people really go through, when their son gets killed, especially a favorite son, like he was the only son in the family.
I went to a war. I didn't get killed. I'm back here. He was in a war. He didn't get killed.
Yeah, for what? Where's all the answers?
The communism should be stopped somewhere, and it might as well be in Vietnam, because first thing you know, communist China would love to get down into the Pacific.
And this never changes. This woman has no idea the reality of the war. She allowed herself to be duped by grifters who convinced her that communism was right around the corner, is going to change her way of life. These fools are the coal in the steam engine that fuels brutal war. These people right here. Fascinating to see this, as it was, because it was such an incredible psyop, perpetuated on these poor idiots, about communism. It's gonna, we have to preemptively invade. It really, there's so many analogs to the preemptive invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan. But the justifications, but be afraid. Yeah, she loves war because she'll never see the battlefield, and she probably doesn't have any sons or daughters that went into the fight either, right? These are the fools that get us all killed, right? And they look. I mean, there was a real honest fear of communism and all that. There was somewhat of an honest debate about what's going to happen. But I think the conversation should have really stopped becoming serious when it's like, well, we got to get them over there before they get us over here. Like, whoa, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? What a communist country rolling in with their communist navy, to attack us on the shores of America? I mean, what are you talking about, right? And it's the same thing when you look at the terrorist justification, the war on terror, right? This fancy. I mean, where are the terrorists? We seriously fucked up Iraq and Afghanistan. Where are they at, right? Fascinating to see this in real, just see this from that era, from that time.
They don't have enough room for their people as it is, and they would just take over everything if they don't stop them in Asia.
In every war that they say we fight to stop communism, it doesn't seem right, because after all, Russia hasn't lost a man. Look what we've lost.
Oh, great point.
Some of the boys come back and they say, those people don't even want us there.
Yep.
Well, that makes you wonder, doesn't it?
A lot of them were glad we were there. A lot of them hated me. Most of them thought that if you were an American, you owed them something. And I think we do owe them something. We owe them the right to live.
So if they had their way, I think that a lot of those people are peasant people. They're ignorant. They're going to go the way that the country offers them the most. Yeah.
Wow, before they were trained by people like Bill O'Reilly on how to hide their racist fears or their nationalist fears, right? Before they were able to find the language to do that, they just were out and proud about it. Wow, they're savages. They're savages. Wow.
So perhaps they would go communistic. But
Totally
as Jake
fucking
said,
wow.
yes, it would be their choice, yes. But we're trying to save them from this.
The only people that would suffer a bloodbath would be Chu and Key and all these people like that. But they'll never suffer, you see, because when they lose, they're going to take off to Switzerland and live off all the money they've been hoarding away the last 10 years. They'll never get touched. I think an 18-year-old owes something to this country, to serve.
We had something to fight for in World War II.
Wow.
And you had nobody that wouldn't volunteer. Very few wouldn't volunteer.
I wouldn't mind, I don't think, serving my time in the Army for the country, because I think the country's given me a lot of things, and it's given me a chance to go to school. I had to work through school, but it gave me a chance to at least go. But I don't know, I think I'd really sort of worry about going over to Vietnam, because I hate to fight somebody else's war.
You've had World War II, you've had Korea, now
It's amazing. Even with all the propaganda and the structure of the information, system of that time, right? Radio, TV, the newspapers, the limited, sources of information, the bullshit, it couldn't saturate everybody. Like the truth was still getting through.
you've got this. After this, you're going to go to the east.
What?
Every 10 years, this country has to have a war.
What brings employment?
So many people have to die, and it's a dirty shame.
It's your politicians, too, that have to take a good portion of this blame. Because I think there's a lot of them that get a certain percentage of these defense contracts and things that go out. And I think there are a lot of politicians that are involved in this, and they get their cut. And this is what's just prolonging everything.
Weird shit going on with the camera, but she knows what the fuck's going on.
How about Michael talks about the black market there, or he talks about generals that have...
Like the cameraman, was the cameraman sexist? It's like, what the fuck was this? Is focus beyond her into the tank for some reason.
How about Michael talks about the black
Weird.
market there, or he talks about generals that have, helicopters with chrome runners and stuff like that, and guys that count rifles so they can get promotions.
They count rifles as a dead VC. They count any weapons they captured. They figured they got the weapons, so they might as well consider the VC dead.
Maybe World War II is like that. I don't know. I wasn't there. Okay.
If you don't know what the hell he's talking about, the Vietnam War was fought with quotas. Soldiers were encouraged to, have a body count as high as possible, and that's the success was measured on the body count. So of course it was gamed. The whole Vietnam War was really just the American military-industrial complex farting in its own face. There's so many logistical and planning, organizational failures. Looking back at the Vietnam War, if you look at honest analysis of the whole situation, I mean, like North Vietnamese bases, critical infrastructure that was unmolested for the entire duration of the war. And it's like, well, you knew about it. You knew it was there. How come it wasn't bombed? How come it wasn't attacked? If you actually wanted to see some kind of resolution to this conflict, Russia's taking keeping it a third time, 24 hours. They've launched 100 projectiles towards the capital. Fuck off, Russia. An analyst I just saw, just to digress here for a second here, on the memorial special here, but an analyst I saw says, that the war is, at the very top of the hierarchy is Putin. And, it feels so retaliatory, right? It really does. It feels so all these resources, millions and millions of rubles, and all these missiles that are getting shot down, a grand majority of them are not even hitting their target. It's just a terror campaign. All these resources could be going towards the front line, to actually helping his soldiers fight this war, against the Nazi Ukrainians, right? And he's using all these resources to terrorize grandma and grandpa. How do you think that makes the Russians feel on the front lines, right? These guys that could desperately use some support, right? These guys that are getting literally bum rushed by tanks because they don't have any anti-tank defense. How do you think they feel? Oh yeah, great. Yeah, we bombed another hospital. Yeah, well, fucking yeah, Scooby Doo. Scooby Doo. How about you bomb some food on top of me? I just saw a Russian getting taken prisoner in the Discord. He hasn't drank water for 3 days. Hasn't drank water for 3 days. How about you bomb some water on these guys?
Yeah, I imagine there's a lot of innocent people that got killed in World War II and a lot of inequities. But, God, why, I mean, it's so obvious that the war is, so many things in the war are fixed around the dollar. If somebody's making money, okay, and I don't want people making money off of me.
Well, that's true. Money is being made left and right, and that's why I think this war is being prolonged.
To see somebody come back.
Damn! It's once again, it's amazing that the bullshit, even then, even while it was happening, right? The bullshit wasn't sticking with the Vietnam War. I guess that's why we saw the big anti-war movement in there, because this is just ridiculous. And it was amazing, though. We saw it repeated with Iraq and Afghanistan. Those were the millennial Vietnams.
19, and you don't know what kind of future he's going to have. You kind of wonder, is it all worth it? And, well, I'm 20 right now, so my whole age group, is likely to end up there. And I'd just like to see it ended, and I can't give an answer how.
I got hit by a piece of General Motors shrapnel, from an 81 mortar. They dug it out of my leg and it said GM and it had the numbers on it and everything, So General Motors is making mortars, man. That's what else can I tell you? They're making money. That's what it's all about.
Wow.
They're supposed to be making cars.
I'm saying if our government didn't spend so much money on other nations, giving them aid, giving them everything we have, we'd be better off because we could spend our money on poverty. We could clean up the cities.
Why do we have to be the policemen of the world? What about our allies, so-called allies?
Yeah, but they're so concerned with
what
this.
are they contributing towards it?
It's so fucking obvious it was pointless. It's so fucking obvious that it really was about, look, the military-industrial complex needs to justify its existence, right? The budgets need to be continued to increase. They need boogeymen. You can't have a big bloated military and without some kind of boogeyman. Eventually, you have to have some kind of enemy to fight. And it really, it's more complicated than that, but it's also not so complicated that simplification doesn't hold true. Because it really is about making some dough, isn't it?
I don't make the policy. Somebody better than us makes the policy. Or somebody that should be more in the know makes the policy. But I hope they know what they're doing. If they don't know what they're doing, we're in trouble.
We were brought up to never question authority.
That's a right winger. That's a right winger that can't admit he's wrong. Poor guy. Poor guy. Maybe he came through in the end.
Isn't that true? People of our age group. And the government was right, and the policeman was right, and the priest was right, and mom and dad were right. The school board was right. Anybody that was in authority knew what was best and how we should think, and they told us how to think.
But I never told my dad he was crazy.
Shouldn't I let my government know that I think they're crazy? I think they are insane, really. This is an insane thing we're doing.
She's describing appealing to authority.
Well, how should I say it?
In a proper manner.
There's a lot of things I don't
there
like.
it is. Don't you love it? The classic censorship through decorum. Sure, I mean, I believe in free speech. I believe in dissent. I just think it needs to be done in the proper channels where it could be easily ignored by those in power.
Should I say it?
In a proper manner.
There's a lot of things I don't like, but I don't go throwing bombs in place. I didn't like school when I was going to school. The teacher's sister over in the school slapped my hand one day, but I didn't go out and throw a bomb in the hallway and blow the school all over the intersection. I just went home and told my father, and then he gave me a couple more whacks.
If you want to complain because you don't want to go to war, go vote.
What do you mean go vote?
You want.
Why? What's the reason for voting? What's the idea of voting? You're gonna vote. If you say there's going to be a war every 10 years, what good is your vote going to do if there's going to be a war every 10 years?
Unfortunately, that individual is wrong. They're both wrong in a way, right? Because just voting isn't the solution, but not participating in your democracy is certainly not the solution either. There's a third solution there, and that's, of course, vote, and then also participate in your citizenship, right? Take ownership for your citizenship And that's part of the check and balance. Part of the check and balance of a democracy is protesting, dissenting.
I didn't raise a kid to go 16,000 miles to fight for somebody else, somebody that you probably never see again. And I don't blame them if they don't want to go.
So many people get it wrong. You have to understand that there's a definite difference between the country and the government. You see, the people in this country aren't fighting a Vietnam War.
Yeah.
The government's fighting it.
Well, the government is...
Wow, yeah, very articulate, yeah.
The government is the people, supposedly, but in this instance it is not.
Anymore, it's not.
No, I agree with you, it is not. Not in this situation.
We read a headline, in 1969 taxes go up 13%. Expect 20% raise in 1970, and we all sit back and accept it. It's been printed in advance.
Well, would you agree with me in saying that the only people who benefit, who can gain anything because of our tax laws, are the very wealthy or the very poor who don't have anything, so they don't pay any taxes. And we support the country,
right.
And yet we have the least to say about it.
Boy, wasn't it nice when Republicans used to give a shit about higher taxes? When right-wingers actually used to care about, the government overspending, not just using it, not just bringing it up only when there's a ridiculous fake budget debate, right? Amazing videos. God, I'm running out of time already here. You know what? Let's do a two-parter. I'm going to do one more video, and we're going to do a two-parter Memorial Day special. I will do the rest of the Memorial Day special maybe on Wednesday, maybe Thursday, actually, because I'm going to be incredibly busy tomorrow and Wednesday. But yeah, maybe I should do that. That would be good. Because let's go ahead and we'll finish up with Vietnam, and then we'll pick up with Iraq, with the Iraq War, and also, so pick up with the Iraq War. Looks like I don't have anything for Afghanistan, and then we'll also finish it up with Bakhmut. These are all interviews with soldiers here, but let's go ahead and finish up our Vietnam portion of the show. God, I'm struck with the similarities, the discussions being had about why are we there? What are we accomplishing? Are we the world's police? Is this justified? All of these questions, and discussions that were had during Iraq and Afghanistan when I was in my 20s. I'm seeing, I'm seeing them, happen right there in 1969, really amazing. These interviews, you warning, these interviews are tough. Okay. If you're going to have if you have a light constitution, warn you, you're not going to see anything violent, but, I think these will stick in your craw a little bit, especially this man with the glasses here.
Do you remember the first time you killed someone?
Yeah. We weren't a family that carried guns or any kind of weapon for violence or anything, no.
So we played war, stuff like that, but it's never real.
Only my dad and my mom, they told us it's like to hurt people or kill or never ever.
You always learned that when someone died, it was something that was detrimental. Someone felt it. Someone else needed that person in their lives.
I grew up, protected all my life. Even when I joined the military, my guys treated me as a kid brother. I was protected.
Have you ever killed anyone? And if so, what happened?
Which time?
We were in a couple different villages in Sorobi, which is a city right next to Sharbaran.
We were going to the border of Albania to a town nearby. We set up claymores. They're bomb devices that you face. They have like 700 steel balls in them.
We were ambushed. My bus was blown up. I was the only one up there that wasn't hurt and scared to death. Scared to death. Really, 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 really scared. So I started asking, screaming for help. Somebody get up here and help me. I'm alone. And then two little heads
As I took the first 3 steps, I just was bounding up. Basically, that's when the gunfire started.
We gunned down these 2 guys holding a larger machine gun, a PKM, and another guy holding his ammo. So they were just running from point A to point B. We happened to just gun them down. And they were right next to a kalot. A kalot's a house, like a little mud hut. And a lady came out.
That one guy is as close to me because Iranian, they come very close to us and they attack us at night, so we shoot everywhere.
My head was ringing, everything was in slow motion, and there was a rifle on the ground that had gotten blown out of the bus. I picked it up and ran towards the gunfire.
I was down, and all I could see was his head and shoulder. He had a hard hat on, and then I saw the red emblem. It was. And then when I could see a silhouette,
bam,
I blasted them. Silhouettes. They're not real people, they're just targets.
You don't shoot women or children on the battlefield, but we were just so into the moment. We watched her pick up the rifle, and that was, well, the machine gun, and that was the cue, and we just lit her up. And I remember just watching, there was 3 of us, and we just opened up, and it was just blood up against the wall. She just slumped over, and it's like, all right, we got her.
We found a very young Vietnamese person with his legs mostly gone.
I come to him, I look to his face with the flashlights. He told me, just finish me, just finish. I don't want to live, so I kill him.
A bunch of the guys had caught up to me, and they're like, what did you do? And I'm like, what are you doing here? I thought I was dead. I didn't realize I was the only one that got off the bus.
Wow.
The whole situation is like almost an out-of-body experience where you're looking down on this situation.
Like I could have picked a bullet out of the air.
Every second, every small little detail of that exact moment. I can tell you what the dust felt like, how the air tasted on my breath. Every little detail you know, because that's the first time you've done something so big.
If there's a hell, that's probably what it smells like there. It penetrates you, and it just won't go away for a long time. It's horrible.
Once you realize they're gone, they're dead, then what death looks like is nothing. There's nothing there. There's a body there, but there's nothing at all there.
One minute you have somebody walking along, and next there's just a lump of flesh.
It goes from something, a big something, to the smallest nothing that there can be. It goes from dreams and aspirations to nothing. You can kick it, you can hit it with a stick, you can throw rocks on it, you can do anything, and it won't bother it because it's dead.
I know it's not right. It's not right to do this, but I have to. If I focus about all this stuff, in 1 minute, if I focus, I lose my mind. But I never focus about this stuff.
I didn't feel any personal guilt.
You have to dehumanize.
I felt sorry for him, but no personal guilt, no.
I don't really believe him.
You could disassociate when you're shooting at spots in the jungle, but this guy was right there, and I felt very compassionate, and I was thinking about, his girlfriend, his family, whatever.
I didn't give a fuck who he was. I was trying to keep me alive. It wasn't me and a Vietnamese. It was me and anybody that's got oh man, this is hard.
When they find out that you served in Vietnam, do they ask you if you killed anyone?
Yes.
And what is normally your answer?
I say, I'm not sure. I may have.
Outside of the Army, when is it okay to take someone's life?
You want to go home and see your family? The question's back on you. Would you want to go home and see your family? well, then I guess it's okay.
I mean, the difference in war and in civilian life,
I don't know if you heard the question right.
you got no choice on one of those.
If they mean to do harm to myself or my family, I'll do anything I can to prevent them from doing it. If it means taking their life, fuck them. They've chosen their path.
Outside of war, is mostly never justified. But in war, neither side deserves to die, honestly. I mean, that guy over on that side is fighting for what he believes in, and you're fighting for what you believe in, and both have families and children, probably.
And this is what makes something like The Hague so important, these international criminal courts so important. Because, yeah, it honestly, at the end of the day, it really isn't the soldiers' fault. You know? And, of course, oh, what did the soldiers commit atrocities? Yeah. The people that are most responsible are the leaders, the people that either manufacture the situation that creates the war, right, or the demagogue that allows his ego to supplant everything else, right, as we see with Russia. So all the government goes through Putin, and, you know, every time power is concentrated like that, big problems. They have no problem. There's no guilt. Putin sleeps like a baby. The only thing he worries about is himself, his ego. He's sweating over here. I got to save face. Right? International community. How can he save face? Where is the discussion? Right? It's almost blown off as a joke, right? About Putin in a criminal court. Right? And why is it a joke? Because quite frankly, the United States is not held accountable for its crimes. It's not. And it's like, why, you know, if the one of the largest perpetrators of violence and terror in the world, the United States, is not held accountable at all. I mean, it's a joke to even think about it, right? The Hague going after George Bush, it would literally be the biggest scandal, right? And this is why, right? These guys, one side fighting for what he believes, and the other side fighting for what he believes in. You know, these guys are out there; they're just surviving. They're just surviving. And, you know, the civilian at home, right, as we saw with that lady, right? Oh, I think we got to get them over there before they get us over here. Well, my life's in danger. They're going to get us. They're going to get us. Patsies, grifted idiots, right? But who are the grifters? Who are the ones lying to us? No, I don't think USA is the great evil. I think the great evil is in the hearts of all men. I think democracy is the best, worst system we have to fight against the evil that is in the hearts of men.
And, you know,
I think there are people that just, it's not that they don't deserve to live, it's not that they don't deserve to have been born, but maybe they don't deserve to go on living.
I think they're talking about the death penalty.
I do have that belief. That
Poor guy.
there comes a point when, you know, enough's enough from one person. Enough's enough. You can't live in our world. That's just the way, you know. But the problem there is someone has to have the power to say that you can't do that. And now and then somebody has to give them that power.
Yeah, and this is what I'm talking about.
It's also confusing.
This is why democracy is so essential, because one man, one party, one organization cannot have all the power concentrated through them. There has to be checks and balances. There has to be mandatory transparency. We can't allow single entities to have control of so much power, because it's very confusing. It's very, one guy says another guy needs to die. How does that guy know he's right? How does everyone else know that he's right? Most of the time that guy is wrong. Is there any justice for that guy? That's where democracy comes in. And that's the power of democracy.
Confusing to me.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing interview. And I really hope this fella here I really hope he's getting the help he needs. Of course, knowing how the VA treats our veterans, it's very likely that he's not getting. Well, I disagree with you, Low Tech, but let me finish my video here before I go on my rant disagreeing with you. But anyway, folks, there you go. That's part 1 of the Memorial Day special. We're going to go ahead and do part 2 on Thursday, and we'll be looking at interviews with Iraq War veterans and Ukrainian War veterans as well. Just kind of, from the old days onto the newer days. Once again, I just want to repeat that very, very rarely are wars justified. Very, very rarely are there truly reasons for humanity to form together and use violence to protect itself. The grand majority of the wars and conflicts we see in the world, the violent conflicts that we see in the world, do not need to be, cannot be solved. Cannot be solved with a military solution. Really, it's diplomacy. It almost always goes back to diplomacy. And of course, the famous, saying is, every war ends in a discussion. There's almost no war that ends in complete annihilation of each enemy. So thank you, YouTube. Look forward to the Thursday update, part 2 of the Memorial Day special.